Aloha, it's Katie, and you know your girl loves Cornell, but there are a few, there's a big but. There are a few things that I don't like about Cornell. What? Also just want to say a big disclaimer that in the grand scheme of things, these are really minor inconveniences and they pale in comparison to the opportunities that Cornell has given me as an international student, and I'm just so grateful to be at this school. So with that, let's begin. A lot of the frustrations I had were because I didn't know these about Cornell, and if someone had told me these things, then it would have made my life a lot easier. The first thing is course registration and pre-enrollment. I'm gonna read my notes because it's kind of funny, but I was ranting like, what is the point of ad drop if the only way to get in classes is to email professors and to email their registrar office to add me? Why do I even bother to wake up at 8 a.m. if I'm only going to get 2 8 a.m. classes? And I ranted about this because almost all of my friends who had gone into the classes that I wanted to get into got in because they had emailed the professor. And this is something I didn't know going into college. Is I genuinely thought pre-enrollment was a time to get ahead, to get the classes that you wanted, right? Wrong, because seniors get priority, and as an incoming junior, this isn't a frustration anymore because I am higher up in priority. But when I was a first year, I was like so triggered. So my tip for you is, if you want a class and if you don't get in the class and pre-enroll, at least email the professor because they can expedite you in the class and put you on the wait list at least. You would think that in your pre-enroll interface, that checklist that says add me to the waitlist would work, but it doesn't. They literally have a separate form for you to add yourself to the waitlist. It's the first day of class and there's another hack that I'm so upset that I didn't know about. So another hack people do is if they can't get into a class and it's cross-listed or it's offered in 2 departments. So for example, if it's offered in computer science and communications, in my experience the computer science one always fills up first, and so what people do is they register for the course through the communication department, even though those slots are reserved for communication majors, and then they later ask to transfer internally. It's the same thing, you know, you hear in college apps, like people try to get into colleges that have higher acceptance rates, and then once they get in there they switch. It's smart, but it's also annoying when you don't know about it because you miss out. So please, like, if you're an underclassman, be aware of this. Although you don't want to promote it because I don't think this is how it should be done, but literally if this is what you have to do to get into a class, it might be the way. Also, another thing I learned, prerequisites don't really matter. Like, I have a lot of friends who, you know, are supposed to take like CS 2300 to get in CS 3300, but they didn't. Like, they just went straight for it. There are also some restrictions sometimes, like, oh, enrollment limited to juniors or seniors, but literally just email the professor and you can get into a class. That's what I did for an entrepreneurship class I took called Designing New Ventures, which was actually cross-listed as a grad class in our MBA school. So I emailed the professor and I got in within like 24 hours. Second thing is glorifying course credits. Because my first year I was around the engineering group, everyone was taking like 20 plus credits in their first semester and I was here taking like 15. But I remember the semesters after that I would up my credits to like 18 because I felt pressured to take more credits because everyone else was taking more credits and everyone was petitioning to take more. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of like they tell you, you know, when you get into a top college, everyone is ambitious and everyone is doing their best, and so it actually pushed me to work harder. But the reason I say this, and I really hope this stops first years or underclassmen, it's why I'm making this video, is I hope that you can stop this if you also recognize this happening in your year. But my friends will ask me how many credits I'm taking and I'll say like 16, and I'll ask them how about you, and they'll be like, oh yeah, 16, but one of them is a really hard CS class. And I'm like, well, why did you have to justify to me that you were taking a hard class? Because I'm not judging you for not taking 4 or 5 hard CS classes in a semester. To be fair, I think the nature of conversations has changed from how many credits are you taking to what classes are you taking, and I like the latter question much better because it's actually about what are you interested in, not like what are the numbers, is my number higher than yours? Okay, another theory I have though is that engineers do have it hard, and I'm not even gonna deny that because Cornell's engineering program is one of the top ranked in the nation, so kudos. I feel like if anyone has ever felt pressured, it's probably because engineers talk a lot about how many credits they have and it's just their way of coping. So I think just changing how you view it as like, oh, is this person judging me for not taking credits, to this person is probably just feeling overwhelmed by the amount of credits they have and they just need to rant and vent to someone. So in that sense, you can help them out and just be an ear. That said though, if you do complain about your credits, I just hope that you'd be mindful, because complaining about your credits does have a trickle-down effect to people who aren't taking as many credits, and in a way, some people can feel insecure about it. And this is something I also rant about in my video about like, don't go to an Ivy League if you're not ready for this. But another problem I've noticed is just crapping on certain majors because they don't have as many credits or because they're viewed as easy. I'm not gonna say which colleges. If you're in a meme page, you will know which majors these are, but I personally am not gonna contribute to this, and I want to end any like stigma around these majors because I personally think they're amazing and they're the best of their kind. But in my first year, I felt like a lot of people judged the difficulty of their peers based on the number of credits. I think it's just insecure. Like, I get it. You know, we came as first years, we want to find our place, and the meme pages can be pretty toxic and it's all we know, so we buy into it. But I don't understand why people feel the need to roast other majors or be like, it's like my friend in one of the easy majors will talk about how stressed they are for a prelim or how much work they have, and I'll be like, oh, but you're a blank major. Shouldn't that be easy? And I'm like, is that really what they want to hear right now? And another thing I realized is these people, sure, they may not take as many credits or their classes may be easier, but number one, it's because they're good at it. I feel like a lot of people forget that the people who are at Cornell, like especially in like any major, are some of the best and most hardworking people of that field. So if anything is easy, it's because they're good at it. As an international student, I've been exposed to many different country systems, and in the Philippines and the UK, I know that more emphasis is placed on academics. So if the glorification of credits happened there, then I kind of get it because academics is everything. But the US and America is very unique in that their college experience is rooted around extracurriculars and activities, and that's something you see in applications. Like, look at all the videos that are like the extracurriculars that got me into this school, or like what I did in high school. It's a very big cultural part of American universities. I personally really respect the people who don't have as many course credits but are doing amazing things out there in like the real world. The beauty about Cornell is you will meet so many people from so many different disciplines. Like, my brain has been opened up because I met these people outside the engineering circle, and I feel like I know more about the world because of them. And if we just kept that open mindset of less judgment and more focusing on getting to know the person, I think we'd be so much more encouraging and uplifting. The third thing is something that's been said a lot before, but it's true, you really do have to pay for everything at Cornell. Laundry, printing, additional chicken on your flatbread at Max. And I understand why, but it just sucks because tuition is already so expensive, especially if you're an international student. Just getting to campus is already very expensive. Right when you think that that's it, no, you're wrong. You have to pay for these little transactions too, which over a span of 4 years does accumulate to quite a lot. Some things I wrote down that I had to pay extra for is gym pass software. Like for my stats class, I had to download, what was it, like Minitab or something, which really was not even like, I don't think anyone even uses Minitab for statistical modeling. Borrowing temporary keys when I got locked out, which is obviously my fault for locking myself out, but I've only done that once, freshman year, once sophomore year, so not too bad. This video is more than I expected, but since we're on a roll, we're gonna keep at it and prepare you with everything you have to know about Cornell. Fourth thing I talk a lot about is pre-professional culture. So this is just very common, I think, across a lot of like top 20 or top 50 schools. It's just people go to these top colleges because they want to get placed into the best, highest paying jobs, and it makes sense because education is very expensive. You know, people have to take loans for these, and it's why they need a good job to pay them off. At the same time, it literally feels like this is the only thing that people talk about sometimes, especially when it's recruitment season, which I'm very glad I was able to dodge this year because I am an international student. I know that I'm not going to be in the States long term, even though I see myself working for a few years there. But it can get tiring when a staple in every conversation is, oh, what are you doing this summer? Or what are you applying for? Like, how are internships going? And yes, it's also reassuring when people ask you that because they're checking in on you, but also sometimes it just adds pressure. And sometimes I feel like, wow, is this the only like life goal or only life path I can have? Because sometimes it seems like the only right path for me is to get like a software engineering job at Apple, Google, Facebook, insert tech company here. And I am still thinking about whether that's something I want to do. Fifth is the entire reason I'm making this video, but I feel like you won't know a lot about your college unless you have upperclassmen connections, or you know people from your high school who have graduated and gone to that college. And I didn't have that at all because nobody was getting accepted into Cornell in the past 4 years from my high school, and so I didn't have any upperclassmen that I could reach out to. I was like thankful enough to find other people from my country, but that was for the basics of how do I survive, like how do I get to Ithaca, how do I survive the winter. It wasn't like how do you get accepted to club, how do you navigate Cornell resources and make the most of your experience. It was none of that. I'm sure like I could have asked them to learn more, but I also didn't want to be annoying, so I just tried figuring out a lot of these myself, and then I made videos about them for everything I learned, and it's in hopes that you guys learn from it and you know what to do when you guys come into Cornell. Sometimes I also feel like people who gain the most are also people who are the most extroverted. I can only speak from my perspective because I have been extroverted for my first 2 years, but I feel like a lot of the just opportunities, knowledge, and like insights I was able to gain at Cornell was because I really put myself out there to meet people. And you know, I won't regret that because I generally loved all of it, but I also wonder, you know, if you are not someone who's comfortable with doing that and reaching out, how do you get this information? I don't know, like maybe Reddit, maybe Discord, maybe other sites, and I hope there really are spaces where these people can get support, but I only cover the area of which I'm exposed to, and from that I've learned so much. Honestly, I'm sure everyone is learning, you know, different things. Like people are probably learning what they want to, and I'm doing the same at the end of the day. But to give you more specific examples of what I think you need like connections or like networking for is, number one, to know how to get into clubs and organizations, especially the selective ones. You know, you think that in college like you finally worked your butt off and got into the school with a 1 in 10 acceptance rate and things would be better from there, but no. Clubs are also still very selective. You still have to go through recruitment, and there's a lot of things I didn't know. Like if I had tried to apply for a professional club my freshman year, I wouldn't have known what to do. Like I wouldn't have known what to expect. I can't say like anything specifically because I have friends in these organizations and they've told me out of trust, so I can't just like go out there and publicize it, even though I wish I could. But there is a very specific way that every organization runs. There are things they look for, there are things you should do, things you shouldn't do, and more often than not there are many members in that specific organization who would tell you the ins and outs of that club even though technically you're not supposed to, and that's what I've witnessed. Information does get you a long way, and I feel you get a lot of it through networking. So my advice to you is the second you get to Cornell, if you haven't already, try to find upperclassmen who can mentor you. There are plenty of upperclassmen who will be happy to help you and share this information with you, but you gotta do it on a one-to-one level, you know, not like this information you're not gonna find in a public event because it's confidential to an extent. So you gotta find those people one-on-one. And like for me, for example, I met someone through the Filipino club. She's like one of my best friends ever. She was the first person I met at Cornell. I didn't know her before coming to Cornell, but she has mentored me in so many ways. She's just been so generous, and I find that so many upperclassmen at Cornell want to help. In college, you gotta put yourself out there. People know that in our kind of campus, which is in the middle of rural New York, the main thing you really have is a community and the support you have, and that's why people care so much and give so much to friends and helping each other. So I just hope we continue that. Pro tip is, if you have classes in person this year, day before your classes or a week before, go to every classroom and imprint that path in your head so that when the first day of classes actually comes, you will already be familiar with where you need to go, like what road you need to turn to, what landmarks along the way can help you remember where your class is, because it will help you just feel more ready for the first day of school and avoid any mishaps like me of not being able to find your class and freaking out in the middle of the road. Same goes for Greek life, recruitment, navigating Cornell resources, facilities, research opportunities, websites, etc. My best tip for this is, if you know there's a club you want to join, go on their website, go stalk people's LinkedIn, or just like go through the about page and team page, email these people. Hit them up on LinkedIn and ask for help. Introduce yourself as a freshman, talk about why you're interested in this club, why you would love to have a coffee chat with them or whatever. But people are very open to it, and there's a big coffee chat culture at Cornell where you can just literally hit up anyone. Like people have slid into my DMs before, and like I would get a smoothie with them. Like it's very chill, but you have to reach out. You have to be the first person to do that. Know what you want out of it and do what you gotta do to get there, because people in my experience have been very receiving once you make that first step. The last thing I wish I could tell you more about, but I guess I'm most thankful that I can't tell you more about it, but it's mental health. This is a concern a lot of people have about Cornell, and I personally haven't faced any mental health problems, so I can't comment on it, but I don't want to be useless either. So one really cool organization that my friends have been part of is called EARS, and it's peer-to-peer consultation. So I believe they have a hotline you can call in anonymously and then talk to a student who has been trained to talk to people through their mental health issues. You know, someone like to create a safe space where people can confide in, and you can just get help from a peer that way. And you can also sign up for training to be able to respond to people who call in with these problems. I will say though that spiritual health is something that I like. This is something I love about Cornell, but it's something I like totally skyrocketed in because my spiritual health is like, it's very important to me. I didn't really have much of it before I came to Cornell, like no community, no church, no youth group or whatever like all my friends have been part of, but it's something I grew a lot in college, and I think that is what has helped me stay sane for the most part. I also just want to say spiritual health and mental health are not the same. I just hope that you know there really are different parts of your health, and just because your faith is doing strong or you're doubting it or whatever, it doesn't mean that you don't have a right to feel any pain or whatever negative emotions you're feeling. I hope that ends on a positive note, to know that, well, or at least I believe that the God of the universe has a good plan for you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you learned anything, found it helpful. Comment anything else if you are a Cornell student, if you're a college student and you've learned something else. If you are a prospective student or a first year student, I also just want to welcome you. Let's keep in touch. My Instagram is @AlohaKatieX. Subscribe if you want to see more college, Cornell online school videos, because I finally have the motivation again after taking a 1-month social media detox. And I am just very excited to be back. I hope this video helped. I'm sure you guys are trying your best. Please just stay optimistic, stay strong during this time. At the end of the day, it is still such a great opportunity to be able to continue our education, and I hope we are always grateful for that. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week with another new video. Bye!